What's up guys, I am Spencer and today I'm coming at you with a video about the 9 tips that'll help you for moving into residence. Congratulations, you got into university, you're finally moving out of your parents' shack, mansion, hut, whatever, swamp, I don't know, and you're finally moving into residence, and you want to know, what should I get to have a successful time in residence? These tips will be to help you in your whole residence career, whether it's you're moving in your first year, or you're moving in your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever year you're in. These are tips for helping you when you're in residence to have the best time possible, especially when you're in your early 20s. Now these tips are going to be a combination of things that I wish I had already known. They're also going to be tips from my personal experience. And without further ado, tip number 1, meet people. Now when you're in res, it's awesome because you're meeting new people from all around the world with new opinions and new experiences. And I understand that maybe you were someone in high school that wasn't that interested in talking to new people. Well, that ends today. Get out there and meet people with similar interests and different interests. It's good to have both because if you have someone with similar interests, you can talk about what you're learning, talk about your opinions, and that way you can actually be on the same wavelength. But it's also important to meet someone that has no idea what you're talking about, no idea what you're studying. You'll be surprised how much you're able to better understand your own material when you have to explain it to someone that's literally never heard it before. Now, another component to meeting new people is attend events, guys. Don't just stay in your room and do nothing. If you know there's an event going on and somewhere in your residence or around your residence, gather a few people, whether you've met them or not before, gather someone and go to the event. This is one of the best times in your life to meet new people, guys. Go out there and do it. You're gonna be able to network like never before. And speaking from personal experience, I met one of my best friends in residence, and I wouldn't have met him had I not gone out and actually searched for new people. Push yourself out of your comfort zone to just walk up to someone and say, hey, how you doing? You might actually develop a friend that you have for the rest of your life. Okay, guys, tip number 2, leave your door open. Encourage your unit or your suite or your room to be somewhere where people like to hang out. I can tell you from personal experience that my friends that did this in first year and left their door open and were welcoming to whoever wanted to walk by are still social butterflies. That's not necessarily because they were born that way. It's because they took the leap and they just said hi to every single person and invited them to come into the room and hang out. And now still, to this day, people still go and hang out with them because they know these are the people that'll make you feel welcome, like you're supposed to be there. And that's the exact kind of environment you should try and achieve. If you're allowed to throw parties, have a party in your room. Have people over and have a good time. If you're not allowed to have parties, like I said, just leave the door open. If someone's walking down the hallway, they might just pop in and say hi. That's how you develop strong relationships. University is about more than just going to class and going to study. It's also about meeting people and developing social skills. And you can increase your likelihood of becoming one of those social butterflies later in life by practicing it early on when the situation is literally right in front of you. Someone could just walk into your room at any time and immediately you're gonna have to turn on that charm, have to turn on that charisma and entertain them. And that's an amazing skill to have, guys. All right, tip number 3, make your room or your dorm yours. Guys, set up some decorations, put up some posters, put up some lights. I can't tell you how quickly that can change the environment and the atmosphere of your room if you just put a little effort into making it look the way you want it to look. Make it look exactly like a room that you'd want to go into. Make it welcoming, make it cool, make it funny, make it different, make it unique. And while I have already put a lot of emphasis about making your environment welcoming to others, keep in mind that university also gets really stressful. It gets hard sometimes and you get down on yourself. You want to go to a place that you can go and feel like you're at home, because that's another thing. You will get homesick from being in res. So make it feel like somewhere that's yours and you can go to and it's your sanctuary. Tip number 4, select a designated study spot. If your room is somewhere where you're being social and you're trying to practice leaving your door open and stuff like that, make it known that when you're not in your room, you're gone studying. Make sure you have a spot that you can go and be productive. Your academics are important. After all, that's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, you're at university. So make sure you find a space that you can go and study. That means look around your res, and a lot of reses have rooms where you can go and sit down and it's a quiet area and it's basically like a library setting. Either do that or find somewhere close to your res where you can leave and you don't have to be social. You can just focus on your work. Make sure that whatever place this is, you only do work there. That is way better to find somewhere where you only work to increase productivity. Otherwise, you're more likely to jump into those time-wasting activities like we've spoken about in other videos. Again, I can tell you from personal experience that in first year, I used to play video games and study at the same desk. Now, which one of the two do you think took priority when I just wanted to relax? Even if I had to study, of course I'd play video games. As soon as I'd pull out my books and my textbook and my computer, all I'd want to do is log on to my favorite video game and waste time. That's why you need to find somewhere where you only work. You don't waste time, you don't do anything other than what's productive to your academics. Now that doesn't have to be a silent area, that could be somewhere where you can discuss academics with someone else or group projects, depending on what you're studying and depending what's required of you. Make sure you just go somewhere that's designated for studying. Remember, when you're in residence, it's a very social area, and that's great, but the problem is that it's it's kind of hard to find somewhere quiet to do the work you have to do. So take time to scope out an area where you know you're going to be able to be productive and not be disturbed by other people or other distractions. Tip number 5, roommates, schedules, and boundaries. Guys, the likelihood is that when you move into residence, at least in your first year, you're probably going to be sharing your unit or your room with another person. And if there's one shower in your unit, then you're going to have to decide who gets to shower when, especially if your schedules are similar. So make sure that you discuss with your roommate when it is you're going to be doing things like using the shower, or when even you're going down to the cafeteria if you have one, so that you can go and eat together. Try and do things with your roommate, but also make sure that you don't cross any boundaries. Especially if your room is smaller, make sure you discuss with your roommate how they feel about you having sleepover buddies, if you know what I'm saying. Because most of us know, or at least most of you will find out, it's pretty frustrating being woken up in the middle of the night by National Geographic noises coming from across the room. Tip number 6. Now, this might not be for everybody, but in my residence, we had a caf, and of course, I like to eat, so I had a la carte plan, which basically meant I could go and eat whenever I wanted. Now, this kind of dietary convenience will lead to the notorious freshman 15, at least probably. And if you're unlucky like me, it'll lead to something like the freshman 45. So you want to try and take measures to try and counterbalance the infamous freshman 15. Now, I understand not everybody has this convenience, but I was lucky enough that in my dorm, I had a gym downstairs. It wasn't anything crazy. It was basically just a Bowflex, a couple of dumbbells, and a shake weight. But I was able to lose a little bit of weight from doing that. But for those of you that aren't so lucky, consider getting something like a skipping rope. It's pretty easy to learn how to skip. I understand it might be hard to begin with if you've never skipped before, but even though you'll probably be doing a lot of skipping throughout university, which I hope you're not and probably shouldn't be, I'll be telling your parents, try learning how to skip with a rope, because you don't have to go anywhere and it's basically cardiovascular exercise whenever you want to do it. Alternatively, seeing as you're definitely going to be taking my first tip in meeting people, why not just schedule a jogging date? Find someone that you like working out with, or someone who's trying to get fit as well, or keep off the dreaded freshman 15, and just go for a jog with them. Go around your residence, find new areas, run through campus. You'll probably be surprised by how many people are doing it. Especially if you're not new to running, you might feel uncomfortable, but everyone's doing it because university is a great time to start getting into fitness if you haven't already. Another pro tip for keeping the freshman 15 off is know when breakfast, lunch, and dinner is actually being served. Now, the way my residence worked is there were certain set times that you could get certain foods, and they were all normally pretty nutritious. However, if you went down at any time between those 3 set times, there'd be pizza sitting out on the table. There'd be pizza and there'd be pop just waiting. It's basically like movie theater food that you could just have whenever you wanted. Now, while that sounds like a luxury and sounds amazing, and don't get me wrong, it is for a little while, it's very tempting to just eat that for every single meal. Now, these are the high caloric foods that are going to pack on the weight. That's why you really need to know when the food is being served and schedule your days around these meal times. Make sure that you're getting the proper meals that are actually being provided for you. Don't just go down and eat whatever snacks are there, because typically they're the ones that are going to be packing on the weight. Another benefit to eating during these times is you can actually keep track of when you're eating. I would just go down and eat whenever I was bored. That's because I didn't really know when breakfast was being served, lunch was being served, or dinner was being served. I kind of just went down whenever I was sick of studying and wanted to have a bit of pizza. I can guarantee you that if I had actually taken the time to know when the food was being served, I could have just looked forward to breakfast, looked forward to lunch, and looked forward to dinner, rather than on a whim going down and grabbing a piece of pizza because I convinced myself I was hungry. Now, with that being said, tip number 7 is have snacks in your room. Even though I just said in the last tip, watch out for the freshman 15 and watch out for snacking and eating at these weird times and whatever, it's actually really important to have snacks you like in your room. Like I mentioned earlier, university is stressful, and sometimes it's really nice to have a snack that you've personally selected that you really like and can maybe remind you of home or remind you of the food your mom or your dad used to make. Anything like that. Something that can get you through studying if you don't want to have to get up and break your study session. Something that you could just snack on, that you can keep in your room for those times that you just don't want to have to leave. Now, that friend that I mentioned earlier in the video that I met in my first year of residence was actually from Costa Rica, and he would always have these snacks that he brought from Costa Rica and he'd share with everyone. For example, there were these little cookies called Chiquis, and they're some of my favorite cookies now, and I wouldn't have experienced that had he not brought snacks into his dorm that he was able to share with me whenever I popped by.
Cheeky, if you're looking to sponsor someone, I'm your guy, hit me up.
While on the topic of snacks, it's worth mentioning that your cafeteria in your residence probably won't have all the condiments you like. So have some of the condiments that you enjoy in your room that you can bring down to the caf to use whenever you like. Maybe there's a sauce that you really enjoy or some sort of sprinkles that you want to put on your ice cream. In any case, make sure that you have it because, again, it's about making your university and your residence experience your own. Tip number 8. Slippers, guys. Have some sort of slippers or flip-flops because in my residence, I didn't have to share a bathroom, but you may have to. And if you have to go through a communal bathroom and you're walking through a floor and whatever that lots of people are walking through every day, you're not gonna wanna be barefoot. It's not hygienic and it's just not good for you. Also, if you're constantly going to other people's rooms and you're doing your best to be social, you don't wanna have to put on running shoes or whatever shoes you have every single time. You want something that you can just slip on really quickly, pop on down the hall to go see Steve and say, hey Steve, check out the new flip-flops. And then Steve will go, those are sick. You want a Costa Rican cookie? At least that's how it worked for me.
Cheeky, if you want to sponsor me, I'm your guy, hit me up.
Tip number 9. Guys, you should already know this by now, but I just have to say it. Look, you're new to university, you're in your residence, or maybe you're not new to university, in which case you should definitely already know this. But tip number 9, guys, is have condoms. Now, people are going to be having sex. It's basically like high school all over again, except everyone's looking to make a new person out of themselves, and everyone's being social and meeting new people. Relationships are bound to happen, but safety still has to be there. Unwanted pregnancy and STIs are real things, guys. And I hate to piss on your parade and be the guy that says, hey, safety's important, but you know what? Safety's important. Safety's important.
Safety's important.
Alright guys, so those are my 9 tips to helping you live the best possible residence life you can while in university or college or whatever it is you're doing. Doesn't matter if you're in first year, second year, etc., etc. I hope that these 9 tips, if used all correctly, I hope that they ensure that you have the best possible years while in residence, and I hope that you can learn something from this. As always, I am Spencer, and stay motivated. I'll see you guys next time.